If people don't feel your words, they won't follow your voice. That one truth separates leaders from the crowd. Most people speak to be heard, but leaders speak to be remembered. And that difference changes everything. It's not about how loud you are. It's not about filling the room with volume. Leadership through words is about precision, about clarity, about strength, about timing. If your voice doesn't carry respect, your ideas lose weight. If your words don't land with impact, your presence won't inspire action. This audiobook is not just about speaking. It's about building a voice that commands respect without ever needing to shout. A voice that sparks action without needing to impress. A voice that penetrates minds and influences decisions. You don't need big, fancy words. You need strong ones. You don't need to talk more. You need to talk better. And across these chapters, you're going to learn exactly how to do that. Step by step, skill by skill. Real, practical, direct communication tools that you can apply immediately in daily conversations, in high-pressure situations, in leadership roles. This isn't theory. This is a toolkit for anyone who wants to lead, not someday, but now. Because here's the truth. If your words don't lead, nothing else will. And it all starts here. Leadership doesn't begin with position. It doesn't begin with titles. It begins with your voice. If you open your mouth and your words don't carry weight, you're just making noise. And noise doesn't move people. Noise doesn't shift decisions. Noise doesn't inspire action. But when you speak with confidence, when every word feels intentional, people notice. They listen differently. They lean in. And most importantly, they remember. Now, let's clear something up. Confidence doesn't mean being loud. Confidence doesn't mean showing off. Confidence means you stand behind your words. It means you believe in what you're saying. Because if you don't believe your own words, why should anyone else? The problem is, most people don't fully own their words. They speak halfway. They dilute their message. They hide behind phrases like, I think, maybe, I guess, I'm not sure. Every time they do that, their message weakens. Their credibility drops. Because nobody follows someone who sounds unsure. Nobody commits to a message that feels shaky. Nobody gets inspired by a voice that doubts itself. If you want to talk like a leader, you need to decide right now that your words matter. That when you speak, you mean it. You don't hedge. You don't water it down. You own it. Owning your words begins with belief. And belief begins with responsibility. You need to take full ownership of every word that comes out of your mouth. Leaders don't throw words around carelessly. They understand that every sentence has weight. Every phrase has the power to build or destroy trust. When you speak, people aren't just listening to your information. They're measuring your conviction. They're asking themselves, does this person really mean it? Do they believe it? Can I trust it? And the answer depends on how much you own your words. Here's another truth. If you don't know what you're talking about, your words will expose you. Your voice will shake. Your message will crumble. That's why real leaders prepare. They reflect. They sharpen their thoughts before they speak. They make sure their message has already been tested, first in their own life. And when they open their mouths, it shows. Their words don't sound improvised. They sound earned. That's why their presence commands attention. Because their words aren't theory. They're truth. Confidence doesn't just come from what you say. It comes from how you live. If you say one thing and do another, people will see through it. And worse, you'll start doubting yourself. Deep down, you'll know your words don't match your life. You can't talk like a leader if you're not living like one. People listen to your actions first, and your words second. If your behavior reinforces your message, your voice gains power without effort. If it doesn't, your voice loses power no matter how well you deliver it. When words and actions align, you don't need to force confidence. You already have it. You've earned it. Here's where most people fail. They shrink their message. They water it down to make others comfortable. They start every sentence with an apology. They avoid saying what needs to be said because they fear judgment. But leaders don't speak to be liked. Leaders speak to lead. That doesn't mean being rude. It doesn't mean being aggressive. It means being clear. It means being firm. It means standing behind your truth even if it makes others uncomfortable. Because if you're always worried about being liked, you'll never say anything worth remembering. Strong voices don't rush. They don't race through every pause. Weak speakers fill silence with nervous chatter. But real leaders know silence can be louder than words. When you drop a powerful statement and then stop talking, something magical happens. People feel the weight of your words. They process. They reflect. They remember. Silence is not weakness. It's strategy. And it's one of the most powerful tools in a leader's communication arsenal. Too many people use their voice to prove themselves. They talk to show off. They speak to look smart. But that's not leadership. Leadership is when your voice serves a purpose. When you speak not to impress, but to impact. When you shift your mindset from performance to service, your tone changes. Your delivery changes. People stop feeling like you're trying to win them over. Instead, they feel guided. And that's what creates trust. Talking like a leader is not about vocabulary. It's not about grammar. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about clarity. It's about conviction. It's about speaking from a place that is real. And here's the decision you need to make today. Own your words. Stop doubting your message. Stop apologizing for your truth. Speak like you mean it. Because every time you do, your confidence grows. Your presence grows. Your leadership grows. And when you own your words, you start owning your space. That's the moment you stop trying to sound like a leader. You become one. If people don't feel your words, they won't follow your voice. That one truth separates leaders from the crowd. Most people speak to be heard. But leaders speak to be remembered. And that difference changes everything. It's not about how loud you are. It's not about filling the room with volume. Leadership through words is about precision, about clarity, about strength, about timing. If your voice doesn't carry respect, your ideas lose weight. If your words don't land with impact, your presence won't inspire action. This audiobook is not just about speaking. It's about building a voice that commands respect without ever needing to shout. A voice that sparks action without needing to impress. A voice that penetrates minds and influences decisions. You don't need big, fancy words. You need strong ones. You don't need to talk more. You need to talk better. And across these chapters, you're going to learn exactly how to do that. Step by step, skill by skill. Real, practical, direct communication tools that you can apply immediately in daily conversations, in high-pressure situations, in leadership roles. This isn't theory. This is a toolkit for anyone who wants to lead, not someday, but now. Because here's the truth. If your words don't lead, nothing else will. And it all starts here. If people don't understand you, they won't follow you. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how deep your ideas are, or how much you care. If your words don't land clearly, everything else collapses. Clarity is the foundation of leadership communication. It's not about using fancy words. It's not about sounding impressive. It's about being understood. When people understand you, they trust you. When they trust you, they listen. And when they listen, they move. But if your words are unclear, you lose them. You lose attention. You lose connection. And once you lose clarity, you lose influence. Leaders don't just talk. Leaders take responsibility for being understood. Here's what most people never realize. When you speak vaguely, people fill in the blanks themselves. And here's the problem. People rarely guess in your favor. They'll misinterpret. They'll distort. They'll assume. That's why clarity is everything. If your message isn't clear, people will create their own version of it. And when they do, your leadership loses power. So, if your team is confused after you've spoken, that's not their fault. It's yours. If your friends, family, or audience walk away without knowing exactly what you meant, that's not on them. That's on you. A true leader never blames the listener. They sharpen their own delivery. Clarity doesn't mean dumbing things down. It means sharpening your message until there's no confusion. It means choosing words that land exactly as you intend. Here's how you build clarity into your speech. Think before you speak. If your thoughts are scattered, your words will be scattered. Take time to know what you want to say before you say it. Be specific. Don't hide behind vague language. Don't say, "We need to do better." Say, "We need to deliver this by Friday." Specific words move people. Cut the fluff. If you can say it in 5 words, don't use 15. Every extra word waters down your point. Every unnecessary detail steals attention from what matters. Use simple, direct language. People don't respect complicated words. They respect words that connect. Speak in a way people actually understand. Slow down. When you speak too fast, your message runs past people. Leaders pause. Leaders breathe. Leaders give their words space to sink in. Match your tone to your message. You can say the right words with the wrong tone and destroy your meaning. Your tone is your attitude made audible. Most people rush. They talk fast. They ramble. They assume others know what they mean. They skip steps in their explanation. And what do they leave behind? A trail of confusion. Then they wonder why nobody follows through. Why nobody listens. Why their instructions get lost. The answer is simple. Unclear words create unclear minds. And unclear minds don't move. There's a lie that says complexity equals intelligence. That's wrong. Simplicity equals strength. If you can explain a big idea in a short sentence, that's leadership. People don't remember long lectures. They remember one clean, sharp idea. They don't remember every detail you give them. They remember how clear your message felt. That's why some of the world's most powerful leaders and thinkers use short, simple phrases. Because simple lasts. Simple spreads. Simple influences. You don't wait for big moments to practice clarity. You train it daily. Every casual conversation is your opportunity. When someone asks you a question, answer directly. When you explain something, cut out the extras. Don't just say what comes to mind, say what needs to be said. Be intentional. And here's a powerful exercise. The next time you explain something, ask yourself afterward, did I make it easy to understand? Or did I make it harder? That one question will transform your communication. Clarity is not just about your words. It's about the response you create. Watch the people you're speaking to. Are their eyes locked in? Are they nodding? Or do they look confused, distracted, lost? That feedback is gold. A real communicator adjusts in real time. They don't defend their words. They clarify them. They simplify. They make sure the message lands. Because here's the truth. People aren't listening to you for you. They're listening for them. They want to know, what does this mean for me? Clarity answers that question. Communication isn't only verbal. Your body talks louder than your words sometimes. If your words say one thing but your body says another, people believe your body. Stand tall. Face people directly. Eliminate distractions. Show presence. When your posture is steady, your message feels steady. Every time you speak, you're training people how to listen to you. If you ramble, they'll tune out. If you're clear, they'll lean in. If you repeat yourself too much, they'll stop respecting your voice. But if you deliver sharp, strong points and stop talking, they'll think about it later. They'll respect it more. People don't follow leaders who confuse them. They follow leaders who make things simple, sharp, and clear. Every time you open your mouth, you're either building trust or breaking it. You're either making things clear or confusing them. And if you want to lead, you must decide every time to be understood. Stop hoping people figure out your meaning. Stop hiding behind complicated words. Stop speaking fast, hoping your ideas land. Make a new decision today. Speak with clarity. Speak with precision. Speak with purpose. Because clarity is power. And people follow voices that cut through the noise. Your voice is more than sound. It's your presence. It's your attitude. It's your energy. And if you can't control it, your leadership will never be trusted. You can have the best ideas in the world. You can have the right values, the right vision, the right intention. But if your voice shakes, if it wavers, if it sounds unstable, people hesitate to follow you. Why? Because people don't just listen to the words you say. They listen to how you say them. And if your voice doesn't carry steadiness, they won't believe in your direction. Here's the truth. Your voice exposes you. If you're nervous, people hear it. If you're angry, people hear it. If you're unsure, people hear it. You can't hide it. Your voice is a mirror of your inner state. That's why leadership starts long before you open your mouth. It starts with how you manage yourself inside. If your emotions are noisy, your words will be shaky. If your mind is scattered, your tone will be scattered. So before you try to guide others, you have to learn how to guide yourself. There's a big difference between loud people and grounded leaders. Loud people talk over others. They raise their volume to get attention. But grounded leaders don't need to shout. Their calmness speaks louder than any volume. Loud demands attention. Grounded earns attention. And people always trust the grounded voice more than the loud one. When your voice is controlled, people feel safe around you. They feel like you won't snap, panic, or lose yourself in the moment. They sense steadiness. And steadiness creates trust. But if your tone changes with every emotion, if your voice rises and falls with your mood, people stop trusting you. They stop relying on you. Because unpredictability makes people anxious. And leadership is never about creating anxiety, it's about creating direction. Most people don't even know how they sound. They've never paid attention. They've never recorded themselves. They don't realize they speak too fast, too soft, too harsh, too flat. That's the first step. Awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. So listen to yourself. Pay attention. Ask yourself, do I sound certain? Do I sound like someone who believes what they're saying? Or do I sound like someone who's waiting to be accepted? When you become aware of your voice, you stop letting emotions control it. You start choosing your tone instead of letting your mood decide for you. One of the most underrated skills in leadership communication is breathing. Shallow breath creates nervous energy. Nervous energy creates shaky delivery. But deep, steady breath creates calm delivery. Before an important conversation, before a meeting, before a high-pressure moment, breathe. Slow everything down. Center yourself. Let your breath settle your voice. That calmness will carry into your tone. And people will feel it. Control also means knowing when not to speak. If you rush to answer every comment, if you blurt out reactions, you'll say things you regret. You'll create damage that's hard to undo. But if you learn to pause, to think, to breathe, to choose, you speak fewer words, but they hit harder. Every pause adds gravity. Every pause makes your words feel deliberate. Leaders use pauses the way great musicians use silence. It's not empty. It's part of the rhythm. If you want your voice to hold steady, you can't just practice when you're calm. You need to test it under pressure. Practice keeping your tone steady when someone disagrees with you. Practice staying calm when someone raises their voice. Practice slowing down when you feel the urge to rush. That's how you train your voice to stay solid no matter what's happening around you. Flat voices don't inspire. A dead tone doesn't move people. You don't need to be loud, but you do need to be alive. Your words must carry belief. Your tone must carry care. If you don't feel what you're saying, nobody else will. So inject energy into your words. Not fake hype. Not performance. Real energy. The kind that comes from conviction. The kind that shows you're fully present in what you're saying. Here's the ultimate test of leadership. What happens to your voice when chaos hits? When things go wrong? When pressure spikes? If your voice cracks, people lose faith in your stability. But if your voice stays steady, even when everything around you is shaking, people find their anchor in you. They think, if they're calm, I can be calm too. That's how trust is built. Not when things are easy, but when things are hard. Your voice is a tool. And like any tool, it must be sharpened. That means practice. That means repetition. That means training. Record yourself. Listen back. Adjust your tone. Adjust your pace. Cut out filler words. Replace nervous chatter with deliberate silence. Refine your delivery until your voice reflects strength, not stress. Do this daily, in conversations, in meetings, in casual talk, because your voice isn't just for big speeches. It's tested in small moments too. Every sentence, every tone, every pause is either building your leadership or breaking it. Before anyone follows your ideas, they follow your voice. Before they trust your vision, they test your tone. And before they believe in your message, they feel your energy. So control your voice. Train it. Discipline it. Calm it. Because when your voice is steady, people feel safe. They feel clear. They feel led. And that's when leadership becomes real. Talking is easy. Moving people is rare. Leadership communication is not about filling space with words. It's about creating momentum. Your words should not just be heard. They should change minds. They should wake people up. They should push someone to do what they've been avoiding. That's the true test of leadership. Do your words create movement, or do they just create noise? Because the world is flooded with noise. Opinions everywhere. Advice everywhere. Instructions everywhere. But very little of it makes people act. Most words pass through one ear and disappear. The ones that stick, the ones that make people shift, are the ones that hold weight. Your job as a leader is to speak words that move. Here's the difference. Anyone can share information, but leaders deliver transformation. And that comes from speaking in a way that reaches deeper than the ears. It hits the core, touches the pain. It shakes the excuses. It confronts the comfort zone. You don't need polished sentences to do this. You don't need a perfect speech. You just need to speak truth. People don't move when they're comfortable. They move when they're confronted with reality. And your words must be the mirror that shows them what's at stake. Say the thing nobody else will say. Call out the excuses. Point out the cost of waiting. Leaders don't sugarcoat the truth. They speak it in a way that makes people wake up. Movement doesn't come from over-explaining. It comes from clarity. From one clean line that hits hard and doesn't get buried under noise. You don't need 5 examples. You don't need endless details. Say it sharp. Say it once. Say it strong. Then let silence do the work. One sentence spoken with conviction can do more than a 5-minute speech filled with clutter. People don't move without urgency. If your words don't carry a sense of now, people will drift. They'll say, later. They'll say, someday. They'll say, when I'm ready. And someday is where dreams go to die. So your words must create urgency. Not panic, but pressure. Show people what's at stake if they don't act. Show them what they lose if they delay. Show them why waiting is more dangerous than moving. Because the truth is, the cost of staying the same is always higher than the cost of change. If you want to move people, you have to speak in words they understand. Don't try to sound polished. Don't try to sound perfect. Speak like a human being. Speak like someone who's been there. Speak like someone who knows the struggle. The more real you sound, the more people connect. And the more they connect, the more they move. Here's something you can't fake. If your life doesn't match your message, your words won't move anyone. People can sense when you're speaking theory. They can feel when your advice doesn't match your lifestyle. But when you've lived what you're saying, your words gain weight. They carry proof. They carry evidence. And people feel it instantly. That's why your life must back your words. Because when it does, your voice doesn't need hype. It already has power. Most people aren't waiting for motivation. They're waiting for permission. Permission to demand more of themselves. Permission to leave comfort behind. Permission to step into something bigger. And your words can give them that. When you say, it's time to stop hiding. It's time to step up. It's time to move. That one line can unlock a shift inside someone who's been stuck for years. Leadership words don't just inspire, they release. Sometimes what moves people isn't inspiration, it's confrontation. A leader holds up the mirror. A leader says the uncomfortable thing. A leader points out what others avoid. Not to shame, but to awaken. Not to crush, but to challenge. Because challenge creates growth. And most people are waiting for someone strong enough to call them higher. You don't need to yell. You don't need to judge. You just need to tell the truth they've been avoiding. And when you do, they'll move. People don't act on vague advice. They act on specific direction. If you want to move people, don't just tell them why. Tell them how. Say, start today. Make the call. Write it down. Fix it now. Not someday. Not eventually. Now. Leaders don't just spark emotions. They channel them into action. If your words don't move people, they don't matter. Leadership is not about talking. It's about impact. And impact happens when your words carry truth, urgency, and direction. Speak to their pain. Speak to their hesitation. Speak to their future. And then give them the clarity to act. Because when your words create movement, you stop being just another voice. You become a leader. Weak words are invisible. Strong words are unforgettable. If you want to command attention when you speak, your word choice matters as much as your tone. Every sentence either builds your credibility or breaks it. Every phrase either strengthens your influence or weakens it. And here's the truth. People don't follow voices that sound uncertain. They follow voices that sound solid. They follow words that hold weight. Most people don't realize how much their everyday language sabotages them. They sprinkle their speech with words that drain power, like, I think, maybe, I guess, sort of, hopefully. These words sound harmless, but they're poison. They reveal doubt. They dilute clarity. They signal hesitation. And every time you use them, your message loses strength. Weak words are forgettable. They fade as soon as they're heard. Strong words, on the other hand, stay. They cut through. They stick. Strong words aren't about being aggressive. They're about being clean, precise, and undeniable. They don't leave space for confusion. They don't sound like suggestions. They sound like decisions. Instead of saying, I think we should try this, say, here's what we're going to do. Instead of, maybe it could work, say, this will work. Instead of, hopefully we can finish, say, we will finish. Notice the difference? One creates doubt. The other creates respect. People respect voices that sound certain. Even if they don't agree, they'll pay attention. They'll take you seriously. Because certainty is rare and people lean toward the rare. This is why leaders aren't afraid of being direct. They don't water things down to please everyone. They don't pad their sentences to sound safe. They don't speak in circles to avoid discomfort. They say it clean. They say it strong. They say it clear. And people remember. Strong words don't mean shouting. They don't mean being rude. They don't mean dominating the room. Strength is not volume. Strength is clarity. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standard. When your words are precise, when your language is disciplined, when your message is sharp, people stop. They listen. They know you're not just filling time, you're delivering something worth hearing. Your language reflects your mindset. If your thinking is average, your words will sound average. But if you demand more of yourself, if you build discipline, if you train your clarity, your words will show it. Strong words are born from strong thinking. They are not an act. They are a reflection. That's why people can instantly tell the difference between empty talk and lived truth. Empty talk floats. Truth lands. Here's the fastest way to strengthen your communication. Eliminate filler words. Phrases like, you know, kind of like, it's just that. I was wondering if maybe. These don't add meaning. They take it away. They make you sound unsure. They waste attention. And attention is the most valuable currency in leadership. One sharp sentence without fillers is worth more than a 10-minute monologue padded with weak language. If you want others to respect your voice, you must respect your own words first. That means you don't talk just to talk. You don't speak when you haven't thought. You don't repeat yourself 5 times hoping people get it. You say what needs to be said and nothing more. Leaders don't waste words. That's why their words are valued. Strong words aren't just clear. They're honest. They're not dressed up. They're not softened to avoid reactions. They're real. And honesty cuts through the noise. People respect those who say what needs to be said, especially when it's uncomfortable. Not everyone will like it, but everyone will remember it. And remembered words are powerful words. There's one thing you can't fake. Strong words only work if your life matches them. If you say one thing and live another, people will eventually stop listening. But when your actions back up your language, your words carry natural power. They don't need to be defended. They don't need to be repeated. They speak for themselves. That's why discipline in life creates strength in voice. The words you speak to yourself shape the words you speak to others. If your internal dialogue is weak, filled with doubt, hesitation, self-sabotage, your outer voice will be weak too. But if you speak to yourself with strength, I can. I will. I refuse to settle. Then your external words will reflect that conviction. Strength starts in the mind. It then flows into the mouth. If you want respect, build it with your language. If you want attention, earn it with your clarity. Cut the weak words. Cut the fillers. Stop speaking from hesitation. Start speaking from strength. Because strong words don't just inform. They influence. They don't just explain. They move. They don't just fill space. They create presence. And presence is the language of leadership. Your words reveal your thinking, and your thinking shapes your life. That means the way you talk is not just communication, it's identity. If you keep using weak language, you start to live a weak life. If you build strong language, you start to live with strength. Weak talk is more than soft words. It's a habit, a pattern of speaking from fear, hesitation, or insecurity. And the longer you do it, the more it becomes part of who you are. But here's the good news. The moment you choose to drop weak talk and replace it with strong, disciplined speech, you change your presence, your influence, and your future. I'm not sure, but this might sound dumb, but hopefully this works out. It's just my opinion, but notice the pattern? These phrases give away your power before your message even lands. They send one signal. I don't fully believe in what I'm saying. And if you don't believe it, why should anyone else? Weak talk undercuts your message before it even begins. Here's my decision. This is what needs to change. We will do it. This is my standard. See the difference? Strong talk doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't hide behind softeners. It doesn't weaken itself to avoid discomfort. It stands firm. It delivers with weight. Strength doesn't mean aggression. It doesn't mean being harsh or dominating. True strength in speech is calm, controlled, steady. It's not about raising your voice. It's about raising your clarity. People respect voices that don't wobble. They respect words that don't bend under pressure. They respect presence that doesn't flinch. That's what strength looks like, not shouting but standing. Not emotional outbursts but disciplined clarity. Every time you speak with hesitation, you're teaching people that your message isn't solid. You're signaling that it can be dismissed. You're giving them permission not to take you seriously. But when you speak with strength, people pause. They take notice. They think twice before interrupting you. They listen longer. They respect your presence. The way you speak trains people how to treat your voice. Here's another problem. Weak talk is long. It rambles. It circles. It adds unnecessary layers. Strong talk is efficient. It gets to the point. It respects time, yours and theirs. Leaders don't waste attention. They know attention is rare. That's why their words are sharp, disciplined, direct. Strong speech comes from strong conviction. And conviction comes from doing the work. Thinking deeply, testing your ideas, sharpening your beliefs. If you haven't built conviction inside, your words will always sound shaky outside. But when you know your truth, when you've tested it, when you've lived it, your words carry natural authority. That's why inner strength and outer speech are always connected. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Start small. Replace one weak phrase with a strong one. Replace I hope with I will. Replace I guess with I've decided. Replace maybe it might with here's what I see. These tiny upgrades add up. Over time, your entire voice shifts. Your posture shifts. Your presence shifts. You stop sounding hesitant, and you start sounding certain. Let's be honest. Weak talk is rooted in fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being judged. Fear of being disliked. But here's the truth. If you try to speak in a way that offends no one, challenges no one, and comforts everyone, you will never lead. Leadership requires courage. Courage to say what matters, even if not everyone likes it. Courage to stand behind your truth, even if it shakes the room. Speaking strong doesn't mean tearing people down. It doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean cruelty. Strength lifts. It challenges. Clarifies. It says, here's the truth. Here's the standard. Here's what needs to change. And then it holds the line. Sometimes strength sounds like encouragement. Sometimes it sounds like correction. Sometimes it sounds like, that's not acceptable. But every time it comes from steadiness, not insecurity. When you stop using weak talk, something shifts inside you. You stop second-guessing yourself while you're speaking. You stop editing every sentence mid-air. You stop bracing for judgment. You start delivering with clarity. You start feeling free. You start feeling confident, not because you faked it, but because you earned it. That freedom changes how you enter a room. People notice it, and you notice it too. You don't need to be liked. You need to be respected. You don't need to be soft. You need to be clear. You don't need to fill space. You need to move people. And all of that begins when you drop the weak talk. Every phrase matters. Every sentence is training. Every word is either building strength or draining it. So stop apologizing. Stop softening. Stop shrinking. Speak with precision. Speak with conviction. Speak with strength. Because when you do, you stop being ignored and start being followed. Anyone can sound confident when things are calm. Anyone can speak strong when nobody is pushing back. The real test of leadership communication is this: what happens to your voice when pressure rises? When your words are challenged? When your beliefs are questioned? When someone tries to rattle your presence? That's when you find out if your voice is leadership or just performance. The world doesn't give you silence. It gives you resistance. And resistance will always test your voice. Most people fold at the first sign of challenge. They backpedal. They soften their words. They over-explain. They scramble for approval. And in doing that, they lose the very strength they were trying to project. But leaders are different. Leaders don't speak for applause. Leaders don't shift their message just to fit the crowd. Leaders stand on truth even if the room shakes. You cannot hold your ground if you don't know what you stand for. Pressure exposes what hasn't been built. If your values are vague, if your beliefs are shallow, if your direction isn't clear, you will crack under resistance. But if you've done the inner work, if you've thought deeply, built discipline, tested your ideas, then when the pushback comes, you won't panic. You won't scramble. You'll stay anchored. Because strength doesn't come from volume. It comes from clarity. When the room gets tense, you can't copy someone else's confidence. You can't borrow someone else's tone. The only strength you'll have is the strength you've built. And that strength is developed every time you face resistance and stay steady. Every time you're challenged but refuse to flinch. Every time you're pressured but still speak from your core. That's how you train unshakable presence. Not by avoiding pressure but by meeting it head-on. People don't respect leaders who change their message every time someone disagrees. They may smile at you. They may nod politely. But deep down, they know you can't be trusted. Respect is earned when your voice stays consistent under pressure. When you say the same thing in discomfort that you said in comfort. When your tone doesn't break just because someone else raises theirs. People respect what doesn't flinch. Sometimes resistance doesn't come loud. It comes subtle. A smirk. A dismissive look. A sharp question designed to trip you up. And in those moments, weak voices get emotional. They overreact. They defend. They get flustered. Strong voices stay steady. They don't attack. They don't collapse. They simply hold their ground. Calm. Clear. Unmoved. That steadiness communicates more than words ever could. Most people fear disagreement. They think it means they're failing. But disagreement is not your enemy. It's your opportunity. When you hold steady in disagreement, people see what you're really made of. They see that your confidence isn't fake. They see that your words aren't empty. They see that your message isn't for show. And that builds more trust than agreement ever could. Here's a truth you must accept if you want to lead. Not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will support your words. And that's fine. Leadership is not about universal approval. It's about holding the line for what matters. Your job isn't to convince every critic. Your job is to stand firm in your clarity and let those who are ready follow. Sometimes the most powerful response to resistance is no response. Not changing a single word. Not justifying yourself endlessly. Not matching the other person's emotion. Just standing steady. That silence speaks louder than arguments. That calm presence commands more respect than shouting. That unflinching voice builds more influence than trying to win every debate. Because people don't follow those who react. They follow those who remain rooted. The next time someone tries to shake you, don't let it work. Don't shrink. Don't rush. Don't bend to their doubt. Hold your tone. Hold your pace. Hold your ground. Because leadership isn't proven in easy conversations. It's proven in the hard ones. The moments when everything in you wants to fold, but you don't. That's when people believe in you. Not just in your words, but in you. And once they believe in you, you stop being just a voice. You become a leader. Your influence isn't measured by how much you say. It's measured by how well you say it. Long speeches don't create leadership. Clear, sharp points do. The more you drag your message, the weaker it feels. The more you circle your point, the less people listen. Over-explaining doesn't build clarity, it destroys it. Leaders don't ramble. Leaders don't drown their message in fluff. Leaders say what matters and stop talking. When you speak, you're not just competing with silence. You're competing with distractions. Phones, inner thoughts, deadlines, worries. People's attention is limited. And if you waste it, you lose it. That's why leaders get to the point quickly. They don't circle. They don't stall. They cut straight to the core. Every extra sentence beyond what's necessary risks losing your listener. Every tangent waters down the power of your point. Here's the truth. Over-explaining is not confidence. It's insecurity. People drag their message because they don't fully trust it. They pile on words, hoping quantity will cover lack of certainty. But the opposite happens. The longer they talk, the weaker their voice sounds. The more they explain, the less people believe. If you trust your message, you don't need backup sentences. You don't need layers of protection. You say it. You believe it. You let it stand. Powerful communicators respect time, theirs and others. They don't waste 5 minutes on what could be said in 30 seconds. They don't think more words equal more impact. They know fewer, sharper words hit harder. When you respect time, people respect you. They know when you speak, they'll hear something that matters. Something worth remembering. Precision is clarity plus. Tease the power of precision. Repeating yourself too much doesn't make you sound confident. It makes you sound unsure. Say it once. Say it clearly. Say it with strength. Then stop. If it's worth remembering, people will remember it. If it's not, no amount of repetition will save. Strong voices don't rely on complexity. They use simplicity. They strip the fat off their message until only the muscle remains. Short sentences feel like punches. They hit. They land. They stay. Long, winding sentences, they feel like static. They blur. They fade. Many people drag their words because they're afraid of silence. They keep talking, filling gaps with unnecessary explanations. But strong communicators use silence as a weapon. Say your point, then stop. Let silence hold it in the air. That pause makes people reflect. It makes your words feel heavier. It makes you sound certain. Another reason people over-explain is because they don't know their audience. They either talk too shallow to experts or overwhelm beginners with details. Leaders know their audience. They give exactly the level of detail needed, no more, no less. Too much detail breeds confusion. Too little breeds doubt. The right level creates clarity. Here's what most people forget. The impact of your words isn't felt while you're still talking. It's felt after you stop. In the echo. In the silence. In the way the listener thinks about it later. That's why the best communicators don't crowd their message. They clear space for it to echo. Leadership communication isn't about proving how much you know. It's about delivering what people need. And what they need is not endless talk. They need clarity. They need direction. They need strength. So discipline yourself to stop dragging. Stop padding. Stop over-explaining. Say it clean. Say it once. Say it strong. Then stop. And watch how much more people listen when you finally do. Talking is easy. Anyone can fill the air with words. But being remembered, that's rare. That's leadership. People hear thousands of words every day, but only a handful stay with them. Only a few sentences echo in their minds the next morning. Only a few lines shape their decisions days later. Your goal is not to be another voice. Your goal is to be the voice they carry with them. So, what kind of words are remembered? Not the ones filled with fluff. Not the ones designed to impress. Not the ones said just to sound smart. The words that last are the ones that mean something. The ones spoken with clarity. The ones grounded in conviction. The ones delivered with weight. People forget surface talk. They remember standards. They remember truths. They remember the sentences that shook them awake. Being heard comes from presence. Anyone can be heard if they're loud enough or dramatic enough. But being remembered requires purpose. You must know exactly why you're speaking. Are you trying to spark courage? Are you trying to kill excuses? Are you trying to push someone into action? If you're not clear on your purpose, your words will vanish into noise. But if you're clear, every sentence becomes unforgettable. Don't aim to sound perfect. Aim to sound real. Real words cut deeper than polished performances. People are tired of empty motivation. They're tired of surface-level cliches. They want words that touch something raw. Speak the truth. Not theory. Not performance. Truth. That's what people remember. Here's something most communicators miss. The easier your words are to repeat, the further your message travels. If your sentences are complicated, people won't share them. If they're clean, sharp, and simple, people will repeat them to others. And that's how your voice spreads. Not because you forced it, but because it was easy to carry. People don't remember uncertainty. They don't remember vague language. They remember conviction. Conviction means you're not speaking for approval. You're speaking from what you know, from what you live, from what you've tested. And when conviction is in your tone, people lean in. Even if they don't agree, they won't forget. Don't wait for a stage to speak with meaning. Every conversation is a chance to be remembered. Every meeting, every casual exchange. Every time people hear your voice, you're either fading into background noise or leaving an imprint. Leadership is built in those moments. The small ones, the daily ones, the ones most people overlook. Here's the trap. Many people speak to impress. They want applause. They want compliments. They want validation. But applause fades. Compliments vanish. What lasts is impact. And impact doesn't come from trying to look good. It comes from saying what matters. So stop speaking for approval. Start speaking for transformation. Think of your words as seeds. Some grow instantly. Some take weeks. Some take years. But they grow if they're real. If they're strong. If they're true. When you speak with purpose, you may not always see immediate results. But your words will echo in someone's mind until the right moment. And when it does, it changes everything. Don't be the person people forget 5 minutes after you leave the room. Don't be the one who fills time with empty chatter. Be the one who shifts the atmosphere with a single sentence. Be the one whose words replay in someone's mind when they're about to quit. Be the one whose voice becomes a standard. Speak to be remembered. Not for your sake, but for theirs. Because remembered words create remembered leaders. You can't expect your voice to command respect in big moments if you haven't trained it in small ones. Leadership communication is not luck. It's discipline. It's practice. It's daily work. Most people want their voice to sound powerful when it matters, but they don't practice when it doesn't. They want confidence on stage, but they don't train it in everyday conversations. They want presence in pressure, but they don't prepare in peace. That's why their voice cracks. That's why their tone collapses. That's why their message disappears when it's needed most. If you want your voice to lead, you must train it like a skill, every day in every setting until strength becomes natural. Your voice is a tool. The more you sharpen it, the more precise it becomes. The more you use it with intention, the more powerful it grows. But if you leave it unchecked, it weakens. It reacts to emotion. It gets shaped by insecurity. Training means practicing communication deliberately. It means paying attention to how you sound in ordinary moments, not just extraordinary ones. Because the way you speak when nobody's watching determines how you'll speak when everybody's watching. You can't change what you don't notice. Start by becoming aware. Pay attention to how you talk every day. Are you rushing? Are you filling silence with weak words? Are you speaking with confidence? Or are you padding your sentences with doubt? Awareness is step one. Once you notice the weak spots, you can fix them. Don't wait for speeches or meetings to practice. Train in daily conversations. When you give feedback, practice clarity. When you make a request, practice precision. When you talk casually, cut the fluff. Every conversation is training ground. Every sentence is practice. That's how leaders build voices that last. Training also means mastering control. That comes from breath and pause. Slow breathing steadies your tone. Silence strengthens your presence. Don't fear silence. Use it. After a strong statement, stop. Let the words breathe. Let the silence echo. That's how impact multiplies. You don't build strength by avoiding difficulty. You build it by facing it. Practice staying steady in uncomfortable conversations. Practice holding your voice when you're challenged. Practice slowing down when adrenaline tells you to rush. Pressure is where your voice proves itself. Train there so you can lead there. Your words are shaped by your thoughts. If your inner voice is cluttered, your outer voice will be messy. If your inner voice is weak, your outer voice will collapse. So train your thoughts. Speak to yourself with clarity. Discipline your internal dialogue. Build strong, simple beliefs. Because when your thinking is sharp, your words naturally sharpen too. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you won't. But leadership isn't about mood. It's about consistency. And consistency comes from training. If you've built habits of strong speech in everyday life, you don't need to feel confident to sound confident. You don't need hype to sound certain. Your discipline carries you. That's why training matters. It makes strength automatic. At first, training feels like effort. You'll be correcting yourself. You'll be cutting fillers. You'll be catching weak phrases. But over time, it becomes who you are. You stop trying to sound strong. You just do. You stop working to be clear. You just are. You stop forcing presence. You live in it. That's the goal, not to perform, but to transform. To build a voice so grounded, so disciplined, so natural that leadership flows without effort. Your voice is not just sound. It's leadership. It's influence. It's power. But only if you build it. Only if you respect it. Only if you train it daily. So don't wait for big moments. Build strength in the small ones. Don't hope your voice rises when it matters. Train it until it can't fall when it matters. Don't treat communication as casual. Treat it as your craft. Because when your voice is trained, people follow it naturally. They don't just hear you. They trust you. They believe you. They act on your words without needing to be convinced. That's the highest form of leadership. Not forcing, not demanding, not shouting, but guiding with a voice that has been sharpened, tested, and earned. And that's the voice you must build. Not tomorrow, not someday, starting today.